Well, it's actually pretty simple. If I'm going to look you right in the face and say, I've got the best product in the industry for you, and then turn around 2 days later and go to your competitor and say the same thing, I'm lying to one of you.
In-House Podcast. I'm your co-host, Jenny Bloom.
And I'm Tony Singh.
And we have a super special guest today. I'm really excited to introduce him. His name is David Collins. Welcome to our show, David.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on. I'll explain why, how I heard about you, but I just want to ask you an icebreaker question. And the reason why I want to start off with this, Tony, is because I've been reading Tools of Titans, and they start off with every chapter asking the guest, what is your spirit animal? So I'm going to ask you, David, what is your spirit animal?
Black Panther.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that. So, David, I've been a customer of yours for the past 5 years, and I wanted to reach out because direct mail, I find, the rumor is that it's dead. But I have a whole different opinion about that. But I really want to hear it from you and what you do with your company. So I'm going to allow you to introduce yourself.
Well, hi, I'm David Collins. Thank you. And I founded Real Marketing, originally 24 or 5 years ago in South Florida, built it for 10 years. And then in a moment of insanity, I opened up a high-end luxury boutique real estate office, ran it. And the largest real estate company in town bought us out. And then I moved in 2007 back to San Diego to start Real Marketing again. And we've always been about direct mail. But the interesting thing is that I was about direct mail before the internet. So a very interesting thought is that if prior to the internet, every single neighborhood in the US and Canada was dominated by some agent. Like I could drive through and I would say Shaughnessy and you would say, oh, Elizabeth McQueen, or whoever it is, you would just name an agent. And then when the internet came out, what really happened was, and I'll never forget this, is that instead of us just focusing on our little neighborhoods, we went, oh, the world is open to us. Let's go get it. It reminds me, the results remind me, if you've ever seen the picture of the dog standing on the bridge with the bone in his mouth looking in the water, and he jumps to get the bone and ends up empty-handed or empty mouth. So statistically, that is an incredibly accurate statement. So back to direct mail. The only option is the internet, right? So that's what we're talking about, the internet. And so 12 years ago, NAR here in the States did a survey, and they said, how many homeowners actually find their agents online? And it was 5%. This is 12 years ago. Now, the iPhone came out 12 years ago. Look at your laptops, right? Think about the technology that has evolved in the last 12 years. Now, let's ask NAR, because they do their survey every year, what happened in 2020? Where did they move that needle? Where did we move that needle from 5% to 2020? And in 2020, it's still 5%. It's never moved. People don't go to the internet to find an agent. Probably the last thing would ask for a referral or something. They just don't do it. And if they did, those numbers would be different and we would work it. The other really, really interesting statistic, and I appreciate your loyalty for the last 5 years, but the truth of the matter is that the homeowners, 78% of homeowners say they would work with a neighborhood expert. If there was, this was last year, right? They didn't say, I want to work with the Facebook guru, right? Or the LinkedIn specialist, right? They said, no, I want the neighborhood expert. So if we know that, it's absolutely clear that you cannot accomplish that goal on the internet. And I'm going to give you one of the best examples ever. With a client in Addison Reserve, Boca Raton, Florida, 743 homes, did the market report just like you do, absolutely dominated. I mean, we're talking 28% market share in a very expensive community, which was huge. And flew down to Florida on one of my trips, and he brought me into his office and says, David, check this out. And he shows me this email, and when you open the email, he pops up, hey, this is Claude Champagne. I'm here to tell you all about the neighborhood market update. And I thought, wow. I thought, oh my gosh, I'm in trouble. It was so impressive. I said, Claude, how many people opened it? He goes, David, I live in the community. It's gated. It's a country. It's mandatory membership. I have everybody's email, so everybody got it, and 600 people opened it. I went, wow, that's impressive. You missed 143, but 600 opened it. I thought it was impressive. So 3-4 months later, I said, Claude, I don't think this is a good idea. And so he dropped the market report, and one of his competitors, Bruce Gaines, picked it up. And if you look up Bruce Gaines, Addison Reserve, Boca Raton, Florida, to this day, he's the #1 agent, and Claude has had to move out to a less expensive home. When I talked to him 4 months or 5 months later, I said, how many people are opening up your email? I said, I'm getting about 100 open every month. I'm like, Claude, there's 753 homeowners in there. You're hitting 100? It's not a big enough number. So we know even if you had access to every single person's email in your farm, you still wouldn't be touching them every month. So I'm going to ask you a trick question. If I ask you to get me something to clean my ears, what do you buy?
Q-tips.
Brilliant. You just named the brand. What you got me was a cotton swab. Q-tip did such an incredible job in branding the cotton swab as a Q-tip that every time I ask that question all across the world, everybody says the same thing, and it's a Q-tip. So let's think about how they did that, or how they accomplished an incredible branding, right? That we now refer to their corporate name as their product. 8.4 contacts, and that contacts had to occur within a 30-day period. If we're going to talk about direct mail, I think it's important to look at some of the mistakes we make, because some of our audience are going to go, I tried that, it didn't work. So let's just, if you don't mind, let's look at some of the mistakes that made. And probably the most common one is inconsistency. So if we know it's 8.4 contacts and you're mailing monthly, how many months do you need to mail, right, to start getting traction? Just to give you an FYI, let's say it's 8 months. I just pulled, we have 110 clients in Denver, which it's a great market for us. And we pulled the 50 that have been with us the longest. The lowest ROI is 800%. That means for every dollar this young lady spends, she gets 8 back. The average is 4,400%, meaning that for every dollar spent, they typically get about $440 back.
Does this change based on age? Like the millennials, they're so used to receiving information on their phone. Are they not opening mail or referring to their mailbox as often as maybe baby boomers?
Are either one of you a millennial?
No,
I don't want to admit
I'm just
that.
outside of that. I'm
all right, so we're going to pick on you today. You're close enough. Just think about this. So they did an incredible study on they tested direct mail, radio, TV, and the internet on marketing and advertising. And after about 2 years, they concluded the study, thousands and thousands of people. They asked they had the group broken up into baby boomers, seniors, and millennials. This was when millennials were just getting through it to us. And they said, which one of these do you trust the most? One of those groups picked direct mail. Guess which one it was?
Millennials.
Right.
I'm going to guess why. Because they're probably polluted with a lot of information online. And so probably the trust has not been built yet.
That is true. So they actually thought they were going to conclude the study, and they had to go back and go, wait a second, this is not, we figured it was, seniors were going to be all over this. They went back and we created it. We know you can put whatever you want on the internet. It doesn't have to be real. I can look as big as IBM. It's the whole pitch that all the internet gives us, is we can put that stuff on there. But here's the bigger point. Think about most millennials, their mother sent them their birthday card on Facebook. They never get anything beautiful addressed to them with their name on it. You receive something with your actual name on it. It's rare. So I think the millennials are incredible for us, but your real question was different. Those numbers change with different markets, and they do.
And markets, you're referring to geographic location.
Right. So let's look at geographic location. And you guys are up in BC. So let's look at, I'm going to go really extreme on you, like West BC and Richmond. Right?
Okay.
The less expensive community, I know I looked at renting over there. The less expensive for the office, but the less expensive the community, the more effective the market report. Now, here's why. In every market, in every industry, every market in the country and North America, doesn't matter, Canada and the US are so close and identical, it doesn't matter. But if I'm in BC, at what price point or West BC, what price point do the agents do a beautiful 4-page or 6-page or 8-page property brochure? In BC, I find it to be about 2.5 million. In San Diego, I find it to be about 1.2. In Wisconsin, it's 450,000. Who's right? Right? Nobody. But the fact of the matter is, if I go after Shaughnessy, right? Everybody's doing this quality marketing. If I'm going into Richmond, everybody who sees this is going to think I'm nuts. But I'm doing 50 deals, or 20 deals a month. So the lower the price point, the more effective it is because there's less competition, and those homeowners feel like kind of like they're jilted a little bit. Like, why don't we get just because my house is only 800?
So what you're saying, David, your point is that you're standing out from the rest of the competition in that market that has not, where agents probably aren't really needing to focus, or they think they don't need to focus on higher quality.
This is interesting because
newsletters.
Yeah, I used to work with my brother. Well, we still do, but he was a huge advocate for doing marketing pieces, good quality marketing pieces for every one of our clients, no matter what the price point was. And so we did implement that because, and it's true, it's kind of like, well, if you're the client who's selling for maybe 800,000, but we're not putting in the effort and the money for the marketing materials, what about the guy that's selling at 2.5?
Right.
They all want to feel equal. We want them to feel equal and special. So we did start doing that. And actually it's very interesting because the people in the lower price ranges, they're surprised when they see it. It's shocking. And of course they want the same thing too.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and on your listing appointment, if you're going in on an $800,000 listing and you're showing beautiful property brochures and just listed postcards and a market report that you do, and I walk in and go, well, we do MLS printouts for that price point. Your competitor is going to look, or a cheesy flyer in the office copier. That's bad. That's bad.
Two-part question here. So you guys obviously have professional graphic designers in your company there. What kind of content would pique the highest level of interest for someone to continue reading it and keep the brochure, the newsletter? And second part of the question is there a format you should include on the cover page, to the inside right page, left page, and on the back?
Yes. So the content is fairly simple, and I think I'm sure you have been I would doubt you've been on a listing appointment in your farm that this piece wasn't sitting on the table when you walked in, because people save it. So what the content is not that special, but it's how it's presented and laid out. So on the inside left or the right, doesn't really matter, we put the MLS sales statistics. When you send, if I want to deal with the neighborhood expert, and every month you send me the neighborhood stats, okay, so now I'm creating this connection between you and the neighborhood. I want to see this. I mean, I get people on online, your house is now worth X. And I'm like, wow, I click on it. I'm in the business. I mean, I know what my house is. I want to know what somebody else thinks my house is worth. So that is super, super important information. I love the map. We put the map with the stats on a lot of cases. That's an option. So then somebody can look at it and go, oh, where is that house, honey? And they can look over on the map and go, oh, that's on the corner. So you want statistical information about the neighborhood. Now, the other content that I love to use, I'll show you this one, that has a property on the back of it. So you're actually featuring listing. So watch this. You're doing the market report. You're paying X amount for the market report. Normally you do a just listed postcard, so you got to add that to your budget. With us, you just put it on the back of here. It doesn't cost you anything. And now I'm going, wow, Lisa is the neighborhood expert in Tremonto, and this is her listing in Tremonto. What I love, which is super, super powerful, is a testimonial from somebody within the neighborhood.
Yeah.
You don't have to
Mm-hmm.
use the name,
For
but you
sure.
can say, Tremonto resident, and then the testimonial.
Mm-hmm.
You can use, if they let you use the name, use it, right? That is super, super powerful. We get caught up in trying to be clever in adding value, as I put it. When I do my seminars, if you've seen me do my seminars, coupons, partnering with the local restaurant, the local dentist, all of that stuff we're sold as adding value. It may be adding value to the homeowner if they want that, but it's distracting about you and being an agent. You're changing the homeowner's focus about who you are. I had a beautiful client, and Kelly Nichols. I love her to death because she races cars, and I used to, so it was a lot of fun. And she started doing this thing, Family and Friends in Denver, and it was like coupons to restaurants. And I'm like, Kelly, if I think of dinner, I now think of you. I used to think of you when I thought of real estate. You're changing my focus and my. And by the way, I don't know of another industry in the world that does it.
Digital is so much more easier to track because there's, I'm not a coder or anything like that, but you're able to maybe address IP addresses and track how many pages are being viewed. So, what are some of your tips on how someone can track and increase their return on investment using direct mail?
So if I work with you in a community where you have, well, I'm going to use Shaughnessy because you ladies know that. And let's say we're going to go after Shaughnessy. As a matter of fact, I did this with Elizabeth McQueen. We went after Shaughnessy. And she mailed and mailed and mailed and mailed. And eventually she got the $24 million listing that sold for $23 million right off of the market report. It was the only thing that she actually did. So I can say, I'm going to work with you. We're going to do this community. You have no results there now. So all I do every month is I pull MLS and, looks like you had 5 listings last year. 5 listings, this was your average income, this is what you cost. Boom, there's your ROI. Divide your cost by your commissions earned and it gives you ROI. Like I said, our average ROI is 4,400% or $440 per dollar.
So it sounds like in order to be successful in targeting a new area with a specific mail out like that, what kind of time frame does it actually take in terms of breaking into that market? On average, would you say 6 to 8 months of mailings before you have a conversion?
Yes, really good point. And so this is we're gonna loop right back around to what price point does this work at best? So
Perfect.
Elizabeth McQueen mailed into Shaughnessy for a solid 2 years with nothing. I don't know another agent in the world that would mail for 2 years with no result and keep going, but she did. And it paid off insanely. That's one of the highest priced communities in BC.
Mm-hmm.
It took her 2 years. I'm going to say 8 months, easy. Everybody should have something, unless you're going after that insanely high market. In the lower price point, I've seen people on the first mailer get a listing, 3 mailers get a listing, because remember, they're not used to seeing beautiful things about their
Right.
community. So the lower the price point, the quicker you're going to get the return. And if you have had any sale in that community in the last year, we can leverage that. And you're talking 3 or 4 months.
Sorry, David, one more question, and I don't know if you have data for this because it would be very difficult to track. I'm wondering, in your experience with the huge market base that you work with, if someone was going to do direct mail out on a regular basis, like you've just said, and follow up with in-person communication in terms of putting in the effort to actually go visit the homeowners, would that increase the ROI in terms of getting in there? Or does that also depend on the market segment?
Tremendously. So I'm going to share with you, if any of your people do door knocking, I was an agent 30 years ago. I tried it and I was like, I couldn't handle the rejection. It just was too much for me. I'm a wimp. But watch this. You got to watch this. So you have this beautiful market report and you've mailed it for 3 months to the neighborhood. If you're going to door knock, you're going to have this in your hand. And you go, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, I've been mailing this to you for the last 3 months. I just wanted to check with you to see if this is information you're looking for, or is there anything else you'd like to see in here? So this whole thing around from you're interested in selling your house to can you help me? If you think about that, you could almost walk up to any stranger downtown and say, can you help me? And they'll probably stop. So it's a great strategy. And they say, no, I really like that. And say, well, wow, are you in your dream home? If I found you, what would be your dream home, right? And boom, now go find
Perfect.
your dream home. Gosh, a lot faster, probably twice as fast. And Elizabeth sits in the local coffee shop. She does the high-rise condos downtown. She sits in the local coffee shop with this on the table. So people walk by and go, they just got it the day before. They walk by and go, oh my God, that's you. Conversation started. She has $45 million in listings right now, and she does nothing but mail. That's it. Yeah, door knock condo.
So what comes first? Because often there's a new agent that's starting the business. Would they be working with any type of buyer in any market so that they're not excluding any potential clients until they really find their own niche? Or would you recommend that they start with finding a niche and then just focusing it and be dedicated and consistent with it?
Well, and I was an agent, so I remember when I started, buyers were everything because I didn't have any listings. People didn't know me or trust me yet to list their home because I had never done it. But buyers were like, oh, I'll jump in your car and ride around town, no matter. I think you should work with every buyer. I think you're also going to learn things. You're just going to learn from that. So if you're working with an $800,000 buyer or a $1.4 million buyer, take them all. Eventually, you're going to find water, right? Where I say water always seeks its own level. You're going to find a comfortable spot where you're really, really comfortable in. So let's say it's 1.2 million to 2 million. Wow, now we know that that's what you're pretty good at. You've got a sale. You sold somebody a home in there. Let's find a market that's in that range, 1.2 to 2 million, and let's start farming it. And the first thing we're going to put on the back of it is your beautiful sale.
I think we know how the calculations work. Being a listing agent is the golden ticket, and that's what you want to aim for. So let's talk about being a hyperlocal. What does hyperlocal marketing mean? Let's start off with that.
Got it. So this is so easy to explain, especially for our BC clients or our US clients. Every agent in downtown Vancouver, when I got there 8-9 years ago, said, I am your downtown expert. So the same is true in San Diego. And I'm going to use Greg Newman as an example. He started with 4 market reports in 4 different buildings. He has a building called the Omni that has 43 units in it. It gets its own market report. The Pinnacle next door gets their own. We are now doing 67 different market reports, one for every building in downtown. Greg's business went from 32 listings a year to 292. And here's a little really, really fun fact about listings versus buyers. If I have 2 buyers and one of them's a $2.5 million buyer and they say, I need to go see this house, I just saw it online and it's my anniversary. Guess what? It's getting rescheduled, my anniversary, right? It's too much on the line. Now, Greg spends 6 weeks a year in Venice, Italy. It is 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, 2-bath flat during the summer. And he carries 292 listings a year. As a listing agent, you can do that. As a buyer's agent,
That's right.
Right.
But I think everybody starts as a buyer's agent, right? Most of the time. I have an exception to that rule. My guy by the name of Wayne Peterson started with us about 8 months ago. Retired CEO, moved to Idaho, and he's gonna take down Coeur d'Alene, the most expensive community in Idaho. 8 months later, 6 months later, he has 6 listings and 2 on the way, and they're all 2 million and plus. Brand new agent. So what that tells me is that he went into a market that was higher end for us. That's a higher end price point, but nobody was spending marketing because probably it's Idaho. It's not Beverly Hills. And so all the agents kind of got lax and those agents that been around for 20 years, those houses weren't worth that 20 years ago. So they're in that category of, I don't spend that kind of money on that house. They fail to remember that the house has gone up, doubled or quadrupled in value in the last 20 years.
You know what I like about your product? Well, you have a variety of products, but one specific thing, and I know you base it because it's all about integrity and loyalty, is that you only allow 1 agent per neighborhood or community.
Correct. Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Well, it's actually pretty simple. If I'm going to look you right in the face and say, I've got the best product in the industry for you, and then turn around 2 days later and go to your competitor and say the same thing, I'm lying to one of you. And And I'll tell you a funny story. So when I was first starting to work with Greg Newman downtown San Diego, this Maxine Finn agent called me and she says, I want to do that same piece that Greg's doing. And I said, no, you can't do it. I won't do it. She just went off on me. She was, my husband's a printer. I'll do it myself. You're going to go out of business. I said, I'll tell you what, Maxine, when I get to Canada, I'll do it in French. Fortunately, I got to Canada and it was Vancouver, so I could keep it in English and a little Chinese. We do English and Chinese. We print an entire catalog in Chinese, actually, a market report and a listing, luxury magazine. But yeah, it's great ideas.
Yeah, let's talk about all the differences in all your products. Currently, my West One team, we use Rachel on your team to create our quarterly newsletters, and we're mailing it out addressed to all our clients with custom content. We do get quite a bit of feedback with the type of content that they want to see, and so we're changing it up all the time. But let's talk about the other products that are in real marketing that you're offering to agents. So what I'm hearing is one of them is building specific. Another one is community specific, neighborhood specific. What other products do you guys print?
So if you go on our website, we have 27 different products. There are 27 different products. 26 of them are designed to back up one. That's the market report. So one of the biggest mistakes somebody could make, and we've kind of touched on mistakes earlier, is an agent will do beautiful market report and then go to cheappostcards.com, or even worse, unaddressed ad mail.
Right.
Insane. I mean, it's a kiss of death. So let's say you take, you do the market report. Now you get a listing appointment. What you probably should have is a professional listing presentation. We have it. You get the listing. You're going to want professional property brochure. We have 12 different property brochures, and anything you can imagine, we can print as well. We've got 12 standard ones on there. So then we can do your property brochure. And you can say, hey, David, for every listing I take, no matter what, mail 500 just listed postcards around that neighborhood, around that home. We have a client in downtown LA, Stephanie Younger, does $250 million a year in business. Every single time, like Rachel, she just sends Rachel a picture of the house, the text, and Rachel knows I mail 500 postcards. Stephanie doesn't have to think, right? And she's getting these beautiful quality pieces. So now you've got your just sold postcards. Now you're sitting at Starbucks and you're having a nice conversation with somebody, and rather than just giving them a business card, you have a beautiful trifold personal brochure. Right? That thing's hard. It's kind of hard to throw away, right? And it's beautiful. So we love the listing presentations. We have buyers and sellers guides. A great strategy is to take a buyer's guide and give it to your sellers. You're just locking them in as your buyer. And so if those numbers that I give you, the statistics I just gave you of 4,400%, here's the crazy thing. What it doesn't take into consideration, because we can't prove it, and if I can't prove it, I don't use it, 67% of all sellers will buy within a 10-mile radius of where they sold. So you and I can't calculate is how many of my sellers, I can calculate that, turned into buyers. That's probably a lot harder.
Let's talk about addressed mail and unaddressed mail, because obviously that may change up your strategy on the type of product that we're going to order from your company. So my understanding is that Canada is quite different from the US. And our listeners, by the way, are all Canadian and American. So let's talk about the difference.
There's only one, and that is in the US, I can literally, you know how you do a map search in MLS? I have a program in the US that I can draw that map, and in a matter of seconds, it'll give me every single person's name, address, what their mortgage is, who their mortgage was with, if they've had neighbors that have lived with them. Their privacy laws are so different. So that's the biggest difference between here and Canada. In Canada, you guys can get the homeowner's name, but it's expensive and time consuming. But you can do it. And I do have clients that say, look, David, I'm going to add 10 names, personalized, 10 a month. So they're spending about $100 for 10. I think you pay about $10 per piece. That's the only difference between these two, between the US and Canada. Everything else is exactly the same. I can go downstairs at our print shop or our print shop in New York and see one of your pieces and have no idea it's going to Canada or Miami.
I guess what's the turnaround time then? For those mail outs. So for example, you said that you guys email Rachel. Rachel's your go-to.
Yes.
And so what is the turnaround time like in terms of getting her the photos? She does whatever she does and then she sends it out.
Well, my marketing manager, Miranda, who's sitting in the room here, does an amazing job, and there's lots of things happening behind the scenes.
Mhm.
So hopefully I'm correct on this. Once we send the information to Rachel, the turnaround time is 48 hours, would I say?
Oh, that's
Yeah,
very quick.
48 hours is version 1.
Yeah.
And then Miranda and I are proofreading it, send her the information back, and I would say the turnaround time is 24 hours. Yeah, Miranda's kind of nodding her head, 24 to 48 hours. And as soon as we approve the final version, it's out and about en route to our client.
So your lead time's around 5 to 7 days probably?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yes.
Once it's approved, our turnaround time right now is 1 day from approval. So if you approve it today, it's printed and to the post office tomorrow. And then it's out of my hands. So don't yell at me about the post office.
Yeah.
What's the cost per mailing? So obviously there's so many different types of let's take, for example, the market reports, the monthly market reports, because that seems like something that a lot of our listeners would be interested in is trying to get into a market that they haven't tapped into yet. So what does that cost look like for a 4-pager?
Right. So your 4 pages, there's 2 versions of the 4-pager. One is called an automated, and it is automated. All of our market reports are custom designed, so it looks like your brand. It looks like you want it. I say you want a look that you can live and die by. I want to be able to see your piece on the table far away where I can't read it and still know it's you. That's branding. That's Q-tip. Right? So the automated one is $1 for all 4 pages, and we pull all of the data and lay it out, including the designer's time and money. Then somebody's got to print it, cut it, score it, fold it, and deliver it to the post office. And then I have to have an accounting team to bill you. 14 people touch that piece, and it's $1. We have 51 employees, but it's $1 plus postage. Now, the custom one is about $1.89. So it comes out to be about a 40-cent difference when it's all said and done. But that one, you can, I think you clearly do the custom. So you and Rachel go back and forth with your 2 or 3 versions with Amanda. On the automated one, you wouldn't even talk to anybody. The first month, clearly, and it's going to take about 30 days to get that design just perfect and all the MLS data set up and the mapping and the website that we're going to build around that community. That one, like I said, it takes about a month. But the custom one is maybe $1.89 on average, depending on how, somewhere between $1.79 and $1.99, depending on how many you do. But I love it. For somebody breaking into a market and they don't have activity in that market yet, I love the automated one. Right? You can't get this copied at the local copy shop one side for $1. Never mind printed.
Absolutely,
that's true.
I have a story because I had done, I subscribed for a year, and then I canceled it because I thought I would bring everything in-house, save a lot of money, and it just took so long to create and design. And customize your own layout, and the quality wasn't as great. We were having issues with our local printers because we weren't doing volumes with them, and the customer service time wasn't the greatest. Then we went back to real marketing, and all that stress, all that time, extra time we've been able to focus on everything else. So I definitely, listeners, listen, you have to sign up, at least just have a simple consultation with your team. How do they get a hold of you?
The best, I'm going to
with your team.
I'm going to give you my own private phone, and it's 858-254-9619. Please leave a message, because I get so many robocalls. Just leave a message, and I guarantee you within 24 hours, if you're in Canada, Karan, who lives in BC and runs our Vancouver office, will get a hold of you. And if you're in the States, I have 3 other consultants, is really what they are. We're not into selling. I mean, either you get this or you don't. And when I do my seminars, you can't go to the back of the room and get $100 off. That's garbage. I hate those. They make me sick. But yeah, we want to make sure that if you're picking an area, that you understand that, oh my gosh, wait a second, Susie has 50% of listings, let's look someplace else. Here's a community with 60 sales and no agent has more than 2. That's what I call an orphan. By the way, we didn't finish your question earlier about unaddressed ad mail. You said different. So the US copied you, by the way, about 3 years ago. And we call it EDDM, every door direct mail. And that's your unaddressed ad mail.
EDDM. Okay.
But one thing in Canada, though, is I can put a red dot on my box and it doesn't get delivered. So if you do unaddressed ad mail in Canada, and by the way, Canada Post will tell you it's about 25% of homeowners have that do not deliver unaddressed ad mail. So 25% of any particular neighborhood is absolutely orphaned because it's unaddressed. All right, so you're going to go, okay, I'm saving, I don't care, you're saving 50 cents a piece on 1,000 homes. That's $500 that because you're not doing addressed mail. What is one commission check? And aren't you going to find at least one sale in those 25% that aren't getting anything from anyone else? And you're portraying yourself as a neighborhood expert? I am not a fan of it. And we do it here in the States. The savings is actually 7 cents here in the States on the postage. I don't know what it is in Canada. I know you guys, and I have Canadian clients that do unaddressed ad mail, $15,000 a month. And now they're doing 5,000 market reports and spending about the same amount of money, but they're crushing on the ROI. I've had 15,000 pieces in Canada and get no call on unaddressed ad mail, like 0. I'm like, that's nuts. I can mail a napkin and get more results than that.
You know how you provided some advice about what to put on the back cover? So a testimonial and a property listing. What if someone wants to break into this luxury market? They don't have any listings or any testimonials in that particular neighborhood.
Right. So every month, for as long as we've been in business, this time here in San Diego, we create content. We try and make the content relevant to what's going on in and around. And so our content in Miami is very different than our content in BC versus Maine, and we work in Hawaii. Very different content in Hawaii versus they have a lot of vacation rentals, and a lot of vacation homeowners, and RB&R and Airbnb. So that every single month, so we have a library of content that's every single month we'll create 3 pieces of content and go back 15 years. It's the amount of content we have, and it's all categorized. Like when the mortgage rates go down or they go up. In the States, you'll see that that's very different. We have 30-year mortgages here where you guys' mortgages, I think, are 3 to 5 years, somewhere in there.
Yeah, up to 5 years. So there's relevancy, basically, based on the local market. Well, we always like to wrap up the segment, David, with rapid fire questions. Do you have a couple minutes for that?
Let's go. I love these.
Actually, one more thing. Before we start that, you actually in 2018 released a documentary.
Yes.
About yourself. I wasn't able to do a little bit more research, but I want to know more about your history on that and why you created a documentary, because your life seems so interesting with all the business ventures that you have and the entrepreneurial. We were talking about you being a serial entrepreneur, and I think there's a lot of story behind who you've become now.
I might get a little emotional. So I grew up in New Jersey in an incredibly abusive environment. And at 15 years old, I ran away from home and ended up in Los Angeles. And that was also the last day I went to school. And today I have 20,000 square feet of buildings, 51 employees, 1,700 clients. And our gross sales will be probably close to 15 million this year. But it's an incredibly, if you watch that, have a glass of wine with you. I don't really like it much anymore because it doesn't really focus on all of the good. It was done by an award-winning guy that was just won awards for doing a documentary on Cuba, Chernobyl, and he came to me and said, "Hey, I know your story. I have your story. I want to do this documentary." And I think it just slanted on all of the negative versus the positive. I mean, I raced motorcycles for 3 years and was the track champion last year. None of that's in there, the fun stuff. I ran 42 marathons. It talks about that. Or I did 42. I did 41 marathons and then had a horrific car accident where I shattered both my legs. and I was in a wheelchair for 7 months. And they said I'd never walk without a walker. 13 months later, I went back in my marathon.
Well, there's a documentary number 2 coming then, sounds like, to talk about all the positives.
Yes, I think there should be. Absolutely.
What keeps you going today?
I love my clients. Most of my clients are friends. And funny, I have 4 really close friends that I could call anytime, anywhere. 2 of them are in BC and 2 of them are in San Diego. So I split my time between my friends in Canada and the US. Really keeps me going is when I get a call. All right, here's one. Lisa Groth. I met her 6 years ago. She's homeless, sleeping on her mom's couch with 2 small children. So I said, look, I'm going to sponsor you. I grew up with 3 of us in one bed, right? And my mom sleeping on the couch. And so I sponsored Lisa. 5 or 6 years later, she has 200 transactions, and she's now on her 4th rental property. Smart. Graduated top of her class in San Diego State University, right? But just didn't have a break, Nobody ever gave her a break. So I said, let me sponsor you. And I didn't ask for a dime back. She wrote me probably one of the biggest checks I've ever seen, and just to pay me back, right? And it's just that kind of thing, makes my day.
Thank you, David.
That's so beautiful.
That is.
I feel like we should end it there instead of doing the
I
rapid
know.
fire
I don't want to do the
questions.
rapid fire questions because that's such a beautiful ending.
All right, fire away. Or if you want, we can leave it at that.
No, okay.
You know what?
That
I think a
was
couple
nice.
of the questions will go well hand in hand with his comments.
How about number 2?
Okay.
We have one. We
Okay.
have one for you.
A couple of them.
Yeah.
Who is?
Go ahead.
Go.
Who is your biggest inspiration?
Tony Robbins. I've spoken with him on stage in
I
London.
like him too.
So he
Awesome.
interviewed 700 businesses and invited one of them to join him on stage in London, and I was the person that he invited.
Wow.
Him and his wife very well.
Feels so special.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah,
thank you for making time for us.
And what is your greatest achievement in life?
Turning around my childhood. Most people do not come out of that childhood like I did. Most of people will end up I have brothers and sisters that are either institutionalized or on a lot of drugs. It's that was clearly my biggest accomplishment. I've done the Ironman. I was an NHRA champion, drag racing motorcycles at 200 miles an hour, which is crazy. I've run 42 marathons, 1 Ironman, hundreds of triathlons. And this business, I've built this business twice now. The first time it took me 10 years to get to $1 million in gross sales. This time it took me 12 years to get to 12 million. So I learned a lot in that transition.
What advice would you give your younger self?
Ooh, stay more focused. Pick a lane and stay focused. If you want to, and I try and teach them. I have a son, 33-year-old son, and I'd say, look, you can go do these other things. I call them silly or exploratory things. But find a lane, stay focused on it, and then go do those things on the side, on your own time. But I would have probably stayed more focused. And when I started the company originally some 20-odd years ago, I used to do those silly postcards with the recipes. And they were so easy to sell to you guys. And then when I sold the company, I stepped back to me and said, are your agents any more successful than when you started with them? And I said, I don't know, but I can check. I went to MLS and so all the silly mailers, unaddressed ad mail, all that stuff, my agents weren't making any more money after 10 years with me than they are now. Nowadays, I can say, yeah, my agents are making 4,400%, right? Because we changed our focus to relevant real estate information, neighborhood specific.
Well, thank you so much, David, for sharing your success story. And thank you for improving my business. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate what you do.
Yeah, anytime.
So once again, realmarketingforyou.com or remsuccess.com is that where they schedule a free consultation, and you've also given your phone number as well.
remsuccess.com is a great place. It's they're not asking you to register or give up your firstborn. Just put in your name and a phone number. And if you have some idea about the area you'd like us to research, there's a slot for 3 of them there. There's a comment slot. You can fill it in or not. but it's super easy, super friendly, and then somebody will get back to you within 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
And anybody who wants to reach out to me directly as well in our DM and In Health podcast, I'm happy to provide a testimonial or give you an idea of how we've been incorporating real marketing into our business too. So thank you, David.
Thanks, David.
Appreciate your time. And I know it's Friday. It's your day off. Enjoy the weekend.